Hello and welcome, I'm your host KB and you're watching the Retrospective. I believe I was first introduced to the Pokemon franchise in late 1998, and like millions of other kids, I was instantly hooked. For this episode, I want to cover the first Pokemon movie and how it signaled the end of my initial fandom with the property.
Training is over. Kids WB presents Pokemon, the first movie. Catch it.
I believe my fandom faded due to burnout from the overexposure the property had during this time. In 1999, you couldn't go anywhere without seeing Pokemon, to the point even news outlets were covering it. With all the buzz about, it made sense that such a marketing juggernaut would have a theatrical film release. The film was originally released in Japan and then dubbed in English and released for Western audiences. The official title for the English release of the movie is Pokemon the First Movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, which is admittedly a bit of a mouthful. At the time of its release, we just called it the Pokemon movie, but some 20 plus movies later, it does make sense to retroactively refer to it as the first movie. Now, I went to see this at the cinema somewhat begrudgingly in early 2000, as by this time I had started high school, so I was thinking myself a bit too old for Pokemon, which is kind of ironic, seeing as how as an adult all I seem to do is talk about kids shows. The plot of the film is that a group of scientists are looking to clone Mew, only to create the extremely powerful, albeit tormented, Mewtwo. To be honest, it's a pretty badass and somewhat heavy plot device for a children's movie. So Mewtwo puts out a challenge to all Pokemon trainers, and thus our heroes Ash and Pikachu, along with Misty and Brock, are thrust into battle to save the world.
You brought me into your world with no purpose but to be your slave. But now I have my own purpose. My storm will create my own world by destroying yours.
Technically, the movie is well done, it's nicely animated, and it features the original voice actors from the English series dub, but for me, the movie just didn't hit its mark. As mentioned, the plot setup was pretty awesome, but at the time what I personally wanted from a Pokemon feature film was a storyline that felt like an extension of the original series, which I loved so much. While watching it, I remember failing to work out where it fit within the series continuity-wise, and because of that I didn't feel invested in the story as much as I wanted to be. I also felt the movie was a bit darker and somewhat grim compared with the light and vibrant feel of the series. It was definitely cool to see the characters on the big screen, and seeing Mewtwo's introduction was a big deal at the time, but I just personally wasn't blown away by the film. This could have been due to my waning interest in the property at the time, as looking back on the movie now, I have a greater appreciation for it. The film would prove to be a success at the box office, and we would go on to see a few more movies released theatrically. But for me, this was the first and only release I would see at the cinema until the more recent releases of Pokemon I Choose You, as well as Detective Pikachu. In the age of remakes, it's no surprise that the movie has also recently been remade with a CGI version titled Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution being released in Japan in July of 2019. While I'm not a big fan of remakes, the animation does look better than I expected, so I am genuinely interested to give it a watch once the English dub is released. There is so much to cover with the Pokemon franchise, it can be a little overwhelming. With the TV series itself already being into its 22nd season, it could be a bit daunting to try and catch up, especially if you're someone like me who's dipped their toe in and out of the franchise over the years. This feeling is not just limited to the TV series, with the TCG and video games also having a massive legacy of their own. I recently revisited some of the early Pokemon games, which I also love, and had the intention of playing through some of the games that I missed, but again, it's a massive task at this point. I wanted this video to be more my own personal retrospective of the film, because as this episode probably reflects, I'm still pretty ignorant when it comes to all things Pokemon, although I still consider myself a fan.
And I hereby declare to the Pokemon of the world, I will be a Pokemon Master!
The franchise shows no signs of stopping or slowing down anytime soon, and with the wealth of Pokemon content that's out there, I definitely hope to cover more in future episodes.
You teach me and I'll teach you Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all. Pokemon.
Once again, thank you very much for watching this episode. Please go and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go check out some of my older videos, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of The Retrospective.